seconds left. Who's doing the opening spiel? I'll pin them to start.
That's me. I'll do that. Alex was telling me to stand by, but he was typing fast, and he wrote sat by. Sat.
Well, we're all sitting, so
jumbled by. There we go. All right. I think we can start. Are we, Stuart? Are we good on the? Do we need a countdown? Do I need a 3, 2, and then the silent 1? And here we go. All right. Welcome everybody to Office Hours, our 300th episode, and that means over 900 hours of delicious audio-visual discussion over the last year. I think we got to have our 1 year. That ought to be a party coming up soon. And hopefully by then, most everyone will be vaccinated too. That would be a really nice thing. We'll see how that goes. Anyway, Office Hours. We're chatting about all things audio, visual, media production, et cetera, et cetera. And Alex is not here today. He'll be back on Tuesday. Who's hosting tomorrow? Is anybody? Chris Fenwick is hosting tomorrow. Basically just the referee for the questions, I suppose. And then just a little protocol. If you've not been here, I mean, we need a show of hands if you've not been here before, because we could save ourselves a lot of time at the beginning here. But the point is, ask all your questions in Mukana, vote on the questions, vote often, early and often. That's where we get our questions from, and we run the show from all those questions. So if you don't have access to Mukana, there's a join link in the chat. You can click there, and in the Zoom chat, you can click there and then head over to Mukana and ask and chat and interact with everybody there. So otherwise, join the Discord link when you can. That's our 24/7 place for all things Office Hours. A lot of good conversations going on there, and I'm just looking at the folks who have joined here today and making sure they're promoted to full-time. Please use your first name, last name, and your city that you're from, and I think that takes care of most everything. Anything I'm missing, I believe we can start going. So again, questions in Mukana. Bill, let's go with the first one here.
Okay. Probably the single most prolific questioner we've had over the course of the Office Hours history. A. Mitchells is in from Washington, was saying happy 300, everyone.
300.
And thanks particularly to Mike Andrews, who is no longer with us for the count. With all of the new ideas about virtual events floating around, what about taking traditional theme events online? How do you approach this in terms of format? What themes might work best for online? We've seen escape rooms move online, but what else translates? And he has a note, and what theme events work for education and student engagement? Also, speaking of 300, what's the best theme approach for that? All togas? All day?
I don't think you want to see us in togas. I don't think that's a good thing. You know, I think my just first impression to that question is that anything that involves interactivity works well in online events, and that's why escape rooms, game shows, and quiz shows and things like that. People get involved in here, and for that matter, I mean that's a great in-person meeting idea too. So, and it transforms also to education and student engagement. Anytime you get people thinking and interacting, you're going to have a better event, whether it's virtual or in person. Yeah, let's go around. TJ.
The virtual field trips that John Idelson and the California State Parks are doing sounds like a really interesting thing, where they can get students talking to a particular park ranger, and the ranger is doing a talk, and they can ask questions of the ranger and whatnot directly, and the ranger can show them and answer the questions. I think that's a really neat idea.
I'd love to see that. I'd love to have him come and bring a ranger and have a Bring a Ranger Day here. I'd love to see that myself. Yeah. Courtney.
Well, I'd mentioned it before, but I think the obvious one for Zoom is Hollywood Squares, because everybody's in squares, and you could do it where that the attendees could write the questions and submit them, and they wouldn't be visible to anyone but the host, and then the host would ask 9 of the guest panelists the question and write a tic-tac-toe overlay to keep track of the score. You'd have to, of course, license it from Universal Studios.
I want to be Paul Lynn. Peter Sargent. Yeah.
Well, kind of along the same line as the National Park Service, California Park Service or National Park Service, TJ?
California State Parks.
Park Service, yeah. The Boy Scouts, we've been doing some stuff with United States Coast Guard where they've been taking shipboard tours. Now, I will say that the equipment issue is a little different on board that because wireless doesn't work inside a big metal ship. So they're dragging a cable around inside the boats. The best one was actually the Bark Eagle, which, for those of you who don't know it, is one of the tall ships where they showed off. But if the kids engage, we're monitoring the Q&A, and the kids are, we've got about 300 kids, and they're asking lots of questions when they're doing that.
Very cool. Very cool. Anyone else? Thoughts on the in-person events? Yeah, John.
I think there is a distinction to be made between the Zoom meeting and the Zoom webinar. And the webinar it lends more to a discussion like this, whereas a Zoom meeting, it's hard to have like a panel thing because you'll have the participants interrupting and interjecting, and it makes it a little bit more hard to have a more formalized discussion.
Right. Chris. You're muted, Chris. You're muted.
Double mute.
Yeah, Adra had her hand up first.
Oh, you
I had
raising
my
your
hand up digitally, and
you got to
I
raise your
didn't
real
really-
hand. That's
Okay.
one of the things we ask here. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I was just introduced to Twitch, and a lot of the young people are using kind of gaming and commentary on gaming as kind of events, and I thought that could be explored as a possible activity for engagement.
Yeah, Chris.
I think one of the things that needs to be considered and possibly addressed is the fact that doing things online is going to fraction our society in a way that none of us in this room are aware of, probably. And I only say this because when I remarried a few years ago, I'm marrying into my wife's family. I have more technology within arm's reach of where I'm sitting than the entirety of my wife's family combined. And there are many people that, I mean, like, take a look at Jason, cut to your wide shot. Like, you have so much tech around you. Yeah, I love that shot. It kills me every time you use it. But we have to remember that we are not, we might be, I didn't want to say normal, Bill, but that is a very good word.
Probably.
I think it's appropriate here.
And that there are a lot of people that you cannot get them to sit in front of a computer for any more minutes than they absolutely have to email their whatever.
And if
they
you
have
can
to
get
do
them
for
to
work.
sit in front of the computer, you're not going to get them to set up their computer. They're not going to spend 10 minutes thinking about when they're setting in front of their computer. So there's no thought to tweaking or having extra gear or anything. But your point is, go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
I just want to finish one last thing.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, the beginning of the pandemic, we were just, my wife and her sister and I were just finishing the process of joining a church in our hometown. And they make you jump through, they make you jump through more hoops than Alex does. And there was, classes and things. And so at the pandemic hit right as we were finishing that process. And, they had like magically discovered this thing called Zoom, and they wanted to have the last couple of meetings over Zoom. And my wife and her sister, they're like, I am not sitting in front of a computer for that crap. I am not doing it. And it's like, I sit in front of a computer 12 hours a day. Nope, not going to do it. And it's interesting. I'm fearful of the people that are being left out of great community opportunities. Because I echo what Doug was saying yesterday, that I've made great friends because of office hours, but also to just be left out of things that are going on. And I think about it a lot, and I don't have the answer to it, but I think that we should all keep that in mind.
I hear you. Bill, finish it up.
Yeah, and listen, right off of what you were saying, but there also, I think, is a generational divide, and I think that's changing. We're getting more digital natives coming in, and just like I made a mistake during mic checks today with assuming that Adjoa was on a laptop when in fact she was on a phone, and that is going to be the new normal for a lot of people as those iDevices and smaller devices that kids are native with and come up learning how to use become prevalent everywhere.
Right.
More people, I think, will be able to do a simple connection and participate than will have the barrier of I don't have 7 monitors and sophisticated everything, so I can't play.
Yeah. I'm go ahead, Guy. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited about this hop-in application
Seen
where
that,
you can have
yeah.
stages and expo booths, so you could bounce around. Because to me, I like CS where I can, hang out for 30 seconds, go to the next booth. So I'd ask everybody to take a look at this hop-in to figure out what the difference is between Zoom and being able to go to conferences and bounce around, because I think that's what we're used to, is being able to go where we want to go and not be
Right.
stuck. And then these ones have stages and backstages. So broadcast live events or pre-record content up to 100,000 attendees on stage. So them buying StreamYard for 250 million is kind of a hint as to what's going to happen. So being able to, have events like that where it feels more like a traditional conference.
See, I know, and I'll get to you in one second, Stuart. But I feel like I differ. I have a different opinion than Alex does. I know he is always saying, and for right or wrong, that events are not going to be the same ever again, or for a very, very long time. And I feel like there might be sort of this rubber band effect of once COVID starts to ease up, people get vaccinated, there's going to be this drive to get back physically together with people. And so there's going to be almost this sort of snap back where people are going to want to go back to events physically in person just to see people's mouths, because we can see people smile again.
The roaring 20s?
Yeah, right. Well, but except to say, now just a little asterisk on that, is that I think there will always be the need for an add-on virtual component to these events where people from all over the country will want to join in, and now they know it's available to them, so they're going to try to make it. So I think these hop-ins, Twitch, Twitter, all of these things are going to want to be a critical component to physical in-person events. And I just feel like that's the difference in my mind. It's not that we're not going to not have physical events, but all right. So we're going to open up another can of worms here. Stuart, go ahead.
Yeah, just a couple of things to Chris's points before. Those divides and those fracturing, don't assume that that's going to be age-related, because there are plenty of people in their 90s who have figured out how to use a tablet and how to use Zoom really quickly. There are plenty of people at the same age who will not touch technology at all. That walling off of groups of people is almost like building a gated community that's exclusive to some people and everybody else gets left out, which comes to the main cause of that sort of gating in society is lack of education and free education and quality education. So as the technology people we are, pushing that education has got to be number one priority.
Right. Jeffrey.
I completely forgot why I was raising my hand.
Okay, John.
I'm going to make one slight disagreement with you, Phil, about
Go ahead.
the rubber band. I think that people are going to want to rubber band, but I think that the business budgets aren't going to pay for it as much, because the enterprise is very used now to having this money back, and they're really seeing that work can be done over Zoom. And they're like, do I really need to spend $5,000 to send an employee to this event? Or
Right.
can I use that for training? Or
Right.
can I use that for marketing? And
there will always be a strong component. I agree with that. You're right. And needs base is going to always win out for sure. Yeah. All right. We're going to finish this because we're only one question in. We're 20 minutes in. So Peter and then Charles, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Well, I was just going to pretty much agree with John, but also the fact that people will want to get back together again because people want to get back together again. Whether it's an event or not is almost immaterial. I mean,
Right.
you know, John and I suffer from the same problem. We're home locked by ourselves. Trust me, I want to get into a large group at some point.
Yep. 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 Charles.
Yeah, so to add to the point that you made, Phil, I was actually trying to figure that out about like which group of our society is going to want to go back to what we had and which group has acclimated to what we have and is more at home being on computers and doing this online. And also, we all see the value of long-term moving forward. This is how a lot of things are going to be happening. But in the same way that you have to work really hard not to get fitness advice,
Right. Right.
because it's free and it's everywhere. This advice that we have and we give, it's filtrating on YouTube and on office hours. And you have to try really hard not to know what you need to do to look good on Zoom or to see the
Right.
value, at least moving forward. So I struggle with that a lot with my own family.
Right. Very good. Okay. Thanks, everybody. All right, we're going to just move on, and we can incorporate any follow-up in these comments. So go ahead with the next one.
Sure. Brody Hafner of New York City is up next with a question. To paraphrase an unanswered question in Discord, can a Polsen headset mic cord be lengthened with 1 or 2 meter, 3.5 millimeter male to female extension cables without diminishing the sound quality? What are the practical limits on length of a microphone signal?
Take it away, Chuck.
Well, I'm doing just that right now. So I have I believe it's a 6-foot mini to 1/4-inch cable going into a 1/4-inch barrel with a 1/4-inch to mini adapter that came with the Polsen mic. And that's all I'm using into the ATEM mini. So it can be done. This gives me, enough reaching room. So normally I would have this run up the back of my shirt.
And what's the total distance of your cable then?
6 feet.
Great. Yeah.
6 feet. And I did have to split the audio and bring down the right channel because it is summing it, and there was a little bit of hiss on the right channel. So you can do that in the ATEM mini.
Great. Bill?
Yeah, I was going to just notice that is what is called an unbalanced connection. Those mini pins are not working in a balanced audio thing. So long runs, particularly if you like run it next to an AC cord or run it next to, if you have an aquarium with a motor, those things can generate RF noise, and you can get noisy lines when you're working an unbalanced audio line and make it longer. It acts kind of like an antenna that way. So just be wary. Could work great.
Yeah. Does anybody know the theoretical sort of length limit on that sort of a get up? Like, you don't want to, is there, Stuart?
There is, but the simple answer is as short as possible.
Yeah. Right. So not to get interference. Yeah. And sort of along the same vein. Oh yeah. Chris.
We're talking about the theoretical limit of a analog audio balanced
Cable.
feed.
Yeah. Around a bunch
Unbalanced.
of electronic gear.
Unbalanced or balanced?
Unbalanced is what he's talking about doing with
Okay.
extending.
I'm just saying, I kind of, the old man in me sort of chuckles when I hear everybody say, "Oh no, you got to get, got to do digital right away." Yes, that's better, but I mean, I used to do like A2 work at track and field events in the 80s, where we were running cables literally circumferencing around a field in a stadium. Come on.
With RCA connectors.
Not RCA. We used XLR, but
okay.
No, and we used direct boxes when we had to, but I'm not saying it wasn't hard, but we did it.
Hey, Jason, go ahead.
I wouldn't go less or more than 10 feet on an unbalanced line. And the real issue is you got to be sure, one of the benefits of XLR is that it clicks in, right? It locks in, and there's no chance to twist that cable. The moment you introduce any sort of point of failure, it can get loose very quickly.
Right. Courtney, and then we're going to move on.
Yeah, and it's You can go longer if you're running line level, unbalanced, but if you're running mic level, which is the question here, I think you definitely want to keep it 6 feet or less, and you want to make sure you don't have any SCR type dimmers, old school dimmers on lights and things nearby, because it will pick that stuff up through the
Cell
air.
phones. Yeah.
Yeah, and cell phones, but they don't do
Right.
that much anymore.
And in the same vein, Bill, next question.
Paul Edison Lamb is in with Embarassed that I don't understand the TRS versus TRRS versus TS well enough to get my single earphones, for example, the Otto, to work with my Blue Yeti headphone jack. I've tried various adapters. What am I doing wrong?
Okay, who's going to tackle this? Jason?
All right. Well, I will give you the TRS versus TRRS, and I'm not going to be able to tell you what you're doing wrong. But so there are 3 kinds of cables in this case: tip sleeve, TS, TRS, tip ring sleeve. So your standard, headphone jack has a tip, and then there's a ring, and then the sleeve is the ground. There we go. Yes, TJ Asher with the fast cut. And then
Look how nice that looks.
And then there's tip ring sleeve, which of course is tip and then 2 rings. So what that does is it adds a microphone, and adding a microphone, depending upon iOS or Android, or it can basically be split, but you have a shared ground across 3 instead of 2 audio channels. Instead of just left right sharing a ground, you now have left right and a microphone sharing a ground. So there are lots of different ways to split this out, and a lot of other ways to impedance load the mic, which is where I drop this off and let the next person explain what could be going wrong with that microphone, because I've never owned one of those.
And just the simple layman's version, then we'll have somebody else. But you just got to make sure that your plugs are matching up with your jacks. And so what you need to do is look at the Blue Yeti, spec, and make sure that mic is going to mic, and left is going to left, and right is going to right. So let's see, who else do we got here? Bill?
Yeah, so you're seeing TRS, and that is tip ring sleeve. That nomenclature comes from the ancient phone patch days when operators put in big plugs, and the tip and the ring was actually what made your phone ring if it was activated. Those are connector types, TRRS. You can wire any signals onto any of those, and people often do. Now, there are some standards, like we just heard about putting 2 stereo and then video on the next one. That is a common thing, but other people put other things. So the question you're running into with, I'm plugging it in and it's not working, you may need an adapter to change some of those circuitry things so that the right circuit that the device is expecting is coming on the right pathways into the receiving unit. It's all going to be manufacturer determined. So it's never going to be the same. It doesn't have to be the same, even though there are some standards.
Right, Jeffrey?
All right, let's get into the technical part
Not
of
too
things.
deep.
So
Not too deep. We've answered it.
Not too
Go
deep.
ahead.
No. This is gonna be quick. Don't worry. So headphone jack. If it's not working on your Yeti, try a different set of headphones. If that's not working, then you want to look more at how you're hooking it up. I don't know. You're using Mac or PC. You might need to go on that end of things and see how it's transferring through from the mic to the computer. But basically, just change them out and see how that is. There is a TS plug as well that for a single earphone that you do have to be concerned about.
Thank you, everyone. So that's your full TED Talk, 18 minutes on tip ring sleeve definitions. Good night, everybody. Drive safe. Seatbelts. All right, let's go to the next one, Bill.
David Brady in New York is in with, can the panel weigh in on the pros and cons of NDI in a home setup without an SDI budget? What are some best uses?
Can the panel weigh in? I'm going to say, I'll bet the panel can weigh in. Next question. Oh, that's not actually the question, if they can weigh in.
Right.
All right, go ahead, Jeffrey.
What are some best uses?
My first NDI was when it first came out, and I used it for any type of presentation, any type of screen grabs, because it was a low frame rate. So if the data took a couple seconds before it passed through, that's fine. It's changed since then. I have a PTZ camera that has the NDI HX protocol that works really well. The big thing is to find the products that are tried true and tested, like Bird Dog, like PTZ Optics, that have been known to work really well with NDI. And even with the 4.5, you can use the desktop version. If you got a good desktop, you can run that well. And as long as you're not overloading with a lot of cameras going through the network on NDI, you should be fine.
And by the
Great.
way, I just want to note he did have another part. Should video traffic be on its own VLAN? He'd like that answered as well.
Okay, Jason.
Yes, it should be. Not only should it be on its own VLAN, unless you really know what you're doing, it should be on its own physical switch, and it needs to be a real switch, like a dedicated switch without any green anything turned on, and if you're lucky, without any green anything even capable in the switch itself. Be very careful. This is how NDI dies.
No green. Got it. It's Peter.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I mean, that's exactly what I do at home. I've got a bunch of Mac Minis, but physical VLAN won't solve the problem at all, because VLAN, you're still driving the hardware. So at the end of the day, you need to have, as Jason said, a separate switching site for that. And don't cheap out. It's a gigabit switch. You need the gigabit switches to make it work.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Okay, Stuart.
NDI good, NDI HX bad. NDI is good in an intranet, not an internet. Use SRT for that. And yes, repeating what everybody else has said, big bandwidth on your network.
Right.
At the moment, I'm running NDI screen capture on the laptop that I'm switching tonight's show from across to the vMix machine and coming back, and there's probably 8 or so NDI connections going on, and this is through gigabit switches.
Good. Okay, NDI, there we go. Next question.
Robert A. Ober of Houston, Texas is in with good morning. What's a good non-permanent way to stick acoustic tiles to a lightly textured sheetrock wall? I want to be able to move them around without damaging the wall or the tiles.
Just my 2 cents real quick. It depends on how long you need them to stay. One of the good things to use is those 3M contact strips. They pull off nice and they hold pretty good depending on what the material is. But TJ Asher.
You can also use staples or thumbtacks. That'll make a tiny hole that you can repair easily.
Yeah. Okay. Stuart?
I'm not sure if the brand is called the same in other places, but the nickname is Smurf Poop because it's blue and sticky, and that is Blue Tack. Just
Blue
use
tack,
a large amounts of it just to go onto the wall and put the tile there and move it later. It comes off the same way as those 3M ones. The 3M ones are probably a better solution.
Jason?
I believe we call that sticky tack in the United States, but I just use foam that's really heavy. 2 ways that I've done it in the past, one of which is not quite completely benign. If you use neodymium magnets and super glue, that will work really well. The other way to do it is with finishing nails, which will just work really well. And I'm sorry, but a finishing nail you could fix with sticky tack. Like, that's how tiny the hole is, and no one would even know.
Great. Courtney?
Yeah, the 3M product is called Command Strips, and they make them with this hard Velcro on them, and so it's sticky, and it's got this dual lock Velcro which you can attach, and it's fairly sturdy and can hold a pretty good amount of weight, and peel it off, and it stays on. Then if you do want to remove it from the wall, then you pull the little tab on the bottom, and that removes the adhesive cleanly without taking the paint off. And they're kind of pricey though.
Yeah. You can get, I've seen a sort of a second hand off-brand bulk on Amazon because I've used them a lot here. I don't recall the name, but I have seen that. Charles?
Yeah, depending on the type of tile you're speaking of, I'm assuming they are these foam tiles. Then what Phil said and Courtney and everybody said, it's going to work great. If you have something a little heavier like those, that will not work. So be cautious.
Right. Okay. Good to know. All right. All right, Jeffrey, and then that we'll move on.
Yeah, I agree on that. If you're going to be moving these things around, the better thing to do would be getting some sort of stand. There, of course, any type of C-stand will work. And then those, I can't think of the name of it, where the poles where you can stretch it out to the ceiling, to the ground. They hold together with a little
Auto
bit of
poles?
pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you could put your stuff right on there, especially if you're moving things around. You'll get some space in between the wall and the and whatever sound device. So that'll help with killing
Yeah.
sound. But you also have to be very aware of where you place those panels.
Okay, we're going to move on here. Next question.
Moving on, Lauren Stroby of our normal panel here, and I think he's here today. I don't know. I guess not.
I saw him. Yeah, there he is.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Lawrence asks, for an upcoming webinar, the keynote speaker starts with a presentation and slide deck with live Q&A afterwards. I'm debating if we should pre-record with teleprompter and tightly edit the presentation part and live switch to him for the Q&A, or do it all live. What do panelists think?
My hands down, when you can pre-record, do it. And absolutely, just unequivocally, when you can pre-record, because then that allows you to cut it down. Whenever anyone presents live, especially from a keynote or whatever, they babble. I mean, there's rarely that somebody can keep a tight presentation with, if they're a TED speaker, maybe. But, if you can pre-record it, do it, and then have them wear the same shirt, same backdrop, whatever, cut to them for Q&A, and it'll make it a lot better. Any other thoughts, Chris?
I would say that most of our clients totally agree with what Phil just said, and that is basically what's kept our company going for the last year. I will say I disagree with it. And the reason I disagree with it is that if it was a normal event where we set up a giant stage in Las Vegas, they were going to give this guy a pickle and let him walk out on stage and give his presentation anyway. They were going to do that. So why do we have to pre-record it now that he's sitting at his desk?
You're wrong, and I'll tell you why.
Let's go. Cage match.
So psychologically, when you're sitting in a dark ballroom in Las Vegas, you're 100% invested, or let's say 90% invested because you got a cell phone in your hand. But you give a lot more latitude to the speaker.
Are you talking about from the stage or from the audience?
Yeah, when he's presenting live from the stage and you're in the audience in a dark room, you as an audience member, you're invested in watching what that person is saying. When they're doing it live, you have 27 different competing things for your when you're doing it online in a webinar. You have too much competition for that attention, and it implores the speaker to be 10 times more honed and to the point and precise and concise. So you've got to
As an audience member,
good.
I will say, and I'd be interested in seeing a show of hands. When I'm watching something live, there's a desire for Schadenfreude where I want to see this guy mess up.
Well,
and so I'm more likely to pay attention when somebody's live than if I'm just watching a tape, which I can just watch later.
And I'm gonna get to everybody's hands in just a second, but I'm gonna tell Chris how wrong he is because my point is this is fun to watch. What we're doing right now, but very few people can carry that off or have the desire or the interest in carrying that off in their live keynote presentation. They don't want to go off book. They want to give this sales pitch, but if they had enough presence of where they were and could say, "Oh, I'm going to get cute with some of the people in the room," that's fine. But most people won't do that. They want to stick to their sales pitch. So if you're going to do that, why not just pre-record it? Anyway, okay, so let's go around and get some other thoughts, and then I'll give you my final thought because that's the right one. All right, go ahead, John.
Pretty simple. I've attended a lot of these things. If they're not on point and punchy, as Phil said, I'm zoning out. I'm doing other work. So one other thing that you're not thinking of, whenever I'm sitting in front of my desk, I've got 3 or 4 monitors in front of me. I can do work. And so I have the event streaming in the background and I am not paying attention at all. And I hate to say it, but that's the way it works.
there's a lot more onus on the content of a virtual presentation to keep your attention, and it's much, much harder. Bill.
I spent a lot of my early career, one of my most fun jobs was working with the National Speakers Association. These are professional speakers who are trying to get better. I think this is an it depends thing, and it depends on the presenter entirely. Many of those presenters, because that's their profession, get to the point where they can do a TED Talk type of thing and be concise. There's no dead air in the middle of it and the rest of that. Very many other people cannot do that. So it's going to depend whether the speaker is truly engaging in the medium they're working at. I did know some speakers who were fabulous live on stage because they would know how to leave the topic, do something entertaining, and come right back to the topic. Most people don't do that. So
Absolutely.
It's talent.
Absolutely. Jason, go for it.
I'll skip the things that have already been said, and I'm not going to say that there is a right answer here because I do think that it depends upon the speaker.
Oh, there's a right answer. But go ahead.
Of course there is, Phil. Of course there is, Phil, and of course there is Fenwick. What I'm going to say is it just depends very heavily on the talent. All of the equipment, this wide shot that Fenwick is talking about, is because I need to do things live. But if if my livelihood depended upon me getting every word exactly right, I probably wouldn't do it live, because if I have the luxury of not doing it live, there is something lost. And it takes an incredibly good host, the Tonight Show type things where they can do live to tape. But even that is
very scripted.
It's a very scripted refinement of a live performance. So I prefer live, but that's just me. That doesn't mean maybe I'm transposing what I want versus what the audience wants.
Yeah, if you've ever seen Conan or Jimmy Kimmel or any of those guys rehearse, it's almost identical to what they do live. And so while it feels very spontaneous, that's what their talent is as good at making it feel spontaneous. Yeah. Chuck, go ahead.
Well, I want to agree and say it depends. When the key there was keynote, and what we're finding is people who are keynote speakers now are training themselves to deliver better live virtually.
Some are.
Now, some are. What I run into is when I do sales meetings or sales kickoffs, and it's the CEOs and the sales teams who don't have public speaking experience, and they want the teleprompter. And we've tried it live, and the way that we've kind of forced their audience to be engaged is to make sure we do it Zoom style, right? Where they can see everybody, but that ups the cost because now they want a teleprompter and everything like that. And if they agreed to pre-record, then we could have nailed down, delivered exactly the content they want. And if you have a good playback system, like you said, Phil, you can cut back and forth and have that interaction still, and them be more relaxed for the interaction part because their delivery was already nailed.
Right. Peter.
Well, the one thing that's, I can agree with Bill for the most part, because the thing that scared me about this note was pre-record with teleprompter. There's a training exercise that goes with that as well.
Yeah.
I have personally experienced speakers who are actually pretty good public speakers. We put them in front of a teleprompter and they go robotic.
Yeah. It's very, very difficult. Yeah. Stuart.
I'm going to walk the middle line between Mr. Fenwick and the opposing views by Mr. Lenger. As somebody who's directed a whole heap of live-to-air motorsport television, with a host who could work off of a script or ad-lib at will unbelievably well, if you've got a host with a lot of talent, yes, live is better. But for everybody else, you're better off pre-recording. And it really does come down to the talent of that host. And I can tell you that once you get into the live, like even directing where you've got multiple conversations on, there were times when I could look at the credit roll and know the show worked and have no idea of the content that we just broadcast because I was so into getting the show to happen.
And I think we're all kind of saying the same thing. We'll come to Lawrence in just a second, but I would pose the question to him, the speaker that you were talking about, is he a trained professional? Probably not. So then hence my answer is that 90% of the time, these people are not pros. They don't have any awareness of what they're looking like when they're on camera. And so the best thing is to edit them in post and edit out all the crud and the ums and the ahs and the droning. So that was the reason I say, when you can record it, do it, and then edit it. Lawrence, am I correct in?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, and this is so valuable. Thank you so much. My talent is very comfortable with a teleprompter. We did some teleprompter taping of him, and that worked very well. And additionally, I think I can juice it up if I can make the presentation and edit like very tight with different compositions of a slide big and he's small, and then based on what he's talking and based on what the slide is animating or whatever, I think I have a little bit more power there to make it looking more professional and more engaging. So when we play it live, it catches the attention of the viewer a little better than just share screening his keynote. So, and it makes it a little bit easier production wise, less error live. So
absolutely.
But thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
All right. Sounds good. We'll move on here. Go ahead, Bill.
Rick Coombs is up next of Columbia, Tennessee. He says, is there a way to rename my Portal Mini so as not to come into the meeting with my name twice? I have tried everything, but no luck so far. Portal people?
Portal people. Guy?
You might come in as whatever its default name is. You can possibly change it under in the back end. There's a spot called collaboration devices, and you can rename there, but I don't think that it's going to affect it. I was testing it now, but it ran out of time before the question popped. But once you're in the meeting, you can go to participants and but you click on your name and hit rename. But you actually have to enter the meeting to rename yourself. So that's the only way I've seen. So.
Yeah, Jeffrey.
Actually, the best way to do it is to just get another email address and sign up for the free Zoom account, then go in and sign up as that. Use that for your portal account. Otherwise, especially if you're a panelist, if you decide to join on your portal with that same account, then that portal will show up automatically in the panel, and that's something we don't want.
Great. John, did you have anything else, or you?
That was what I was going to say, what Jeffrey just said.
All right, next question.
Moving to Tony Mobley, our friend from Newman, Georgia. Do I need a Stream Deck for the upcoming Zoom OSC training, or what other hardware and software might be needed for that? And since Alex is not hosting, do you know Jason? I'm sorry, Phil.
It's all right.
Go ahead, Phil.
No. Go ahead.
I would say that nothing is required other than a computer that you're comfortable with, but doing anything, there are two ways to do things, like, with and without a Stream Deck. I have 3 of them here. They are magnificent for what they add. If you're willing to take the time to learn them, they're really going to change your workflow. So the answer is no, but yeah.
Yeah, John.
And how much do these things cost?
They're
less than an Alex, okay? They're not.
Oh yeah,
bad.
the small one's like $100. This is
$149. It's usually
Small
one.
one?
Oh no, I'm sorry. That's the smallest. Yeah, you're right.
You know what? I've got those things. I was thinking of the Blackmagic Design Stream Box or whatever it's called.
Oh, the ATEM Mini you're talking about.
Yeah, I've got 2 of the Stream Decks. Never mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say
yeah.
that he does not need it for the training, and the
Right.
reason is because he can come to the training, and even if Andy walks us through companion setup, he can use the companion web buttons to simulate all of the actions. So
Right.
he doesn't
You
have
can
to
just
get
click
one
in
right
the
now.
interface. Yeah.
We can do the training, and he can see how to set everything up. But
When is that training going to be? Do we know what day?
First Saturday or last Saturday in January starts?
Okay. All right. Great.
So this Saturday then, right?
Yeah, it must be something like that. Right.
I think we
Stuart.
should do a whole hour on Stream Deck sometime.
Yeah.
I'm just going to quickly interrupt with a reminder that when you say something is cheap, please realize that you're saying it's cheap for the US dollar, not for people in other countries. And don't forget that when you're saying something is cheap on a website, when you're buying it, that US stuff doesn't include sales tax on the sticker price, and you end up paying that on top.
Thank you.
Note, this Saturday is the 23rd. If it's the last Saturday, it's the 30th. So you have a week and a half.
Good. Guy.
Yeah, so Andy was talking a little bit about this after hours, and Tony happened to be in the group, and we got on the discussion of these things. So I went and picked one up. This just arrived yesterday. So $99, you can get a MIDI controller from Akai. This is the mini APC mini. So OSC sends MIDI commands. So in addition to tying up a Stream Deck, if you don't want to spend that kind of money, this is one of the devices that you might want to get.
It's fun. Good deal. Next question.
Carl H. in Grand Rapids, Michigan says, concerning the ATEM Mini, will it appear as a webcam in legacy USB 2 or only in USB 3?
I believe it works on both. Jason?
I believe it doesn't.
Oh, really?
For a webcam, not only do you need USB 3, you need USB 3.1 Generation 1 or better.
All right, we have a dissenting opinion from Mr. Courtney.
Oh, do we?
Yes.
All right.
You're looking at me right now on a USB 2 connection.
There you go.
ATEM Mini, so I know it works.
The representative from Hollywood disagrees. All right. Anyone else? Good. All right.
Peter,
So I think you're good to go there. I think Peter.
I just want to make sure everyone understands there is a difference between, at least in the operating system, to saying, is it a webcam or is it an audio capture or video capture device? It's presenting itself as a webcam, so yes, it works fine over a USB 2.
Right. Okay. Good. Okay, next question.
Brody Hafner in New York City said, recently there was a mention of a flexible build-it-yourself alternative to the T5 SSD external video recorders connected via USB 3.1 Type-C, possibly an OWC enclosure. Could somebody provide a link and recommend specs for the speed and size of memory to include? So those
Jeffrey.
are those NVMe housings, I think.
Yeah, I think he was talking about this when I was talking. Whoops, no, that's not showing the right screen. Sorry. When I was talking about the CES stuff, the OWC came out with this U2 shuttle, which is an enclosure that you can put M2 drives into.
Is that what you have, Jason? Is that?
So this is the Thunderbolt version of this specific box, but they look almost identical. It's going to be a little bit smaller and it's going to be gray. OWC is very, very clear about the NVMe to USB-C, which is what you need instead of Thunderbolt 3.
And so that's a roll your own video. What is the video connection to it, or is it just Type-C?
So that's the part that's wrong. What he's talking about, a T5 is just a hard drive. Right. A T5 is not a video recording device insofar as, here's my video input.
Right.
So yes, essentially this is the Envoy Express, but this is the Thunderbolt 3 version. There is a USB-C version that, yes, you just open it up, and as long as you have an NVMe that is fast enough on the inside, it'll absolutely work.
Okay. Ajwa, are you raising your hand? Your digital hand?
Yes, sorry, I raised my digital hand. It was not about this question. I have a question, a logistic question, but maybe I should wait till the different
or
time.
do you have the ability to put it in Mukana?
If I leave the screen, then my visual goes away.
Right.
And
I'm going to call an audible. I'm going to come to you next when we're finished answering this question, okay? Stuart, go ahead.
Just a reminder, if you're doing the DIY route and you buy an NVMe drive, there is a difference between M key and B key drives. If I remember rightly, it's the M key drives that are actually the NVMe ones that use the PCI connection inside the device, whereas the B key is actually using two SATA connections in parallel. So that'll be slower. So if you want maximum performance, you want the M key ones.
Thank you, Stuart. Okay, let's go to Ajwa. Go ahead with your question.
I wanted to know the etiquette about getting up for coffee and things like that. And well, I guess
coffee.
That's
no, you're not allowed unless you're going to get for all of us.
Here,
in that case, I'm going to take mine black, and like a dark roast would be nice.
Coffee has been outlawed on this stream. There's none available.
You go ahead and get some coffee. That's fine. That's all right.
Okay. And
We're
then
adults.
the
We
other
can get up as needed.
Good try.
okay, thank you. The other
Yeah.
question is there something like a clear background that you could that everyone could post? Like if I was having a meeting with my team, is there like just a clear, like a background, like an automatic background that we could all have that would be the same?
Oh, you want to have it like in a meeting? Well, you could do virtual backgrounds in Zoom. I'm not sure that you can do it on your phone, but most of the computer you can. Everybody's saying you can. Okay, so there's an option in Zoom to do like a virtual background, and you can do colors, or you could do a picture, Hawaii beach, or something like that.
Okay.
If you wanted to.
Thank you.
Otherwise, it's people spending money to put posters behind them to make it look like they all have the same color, but that's probably a little more than most people are willing to do. Stuart, yeah.
Virtual backgrounds is perhaps something we should look at with Alex involved to do a background for everybody that is identical. Don't forget that if you've got small backgrounds that are different to each other, when we go to grid view, it looks like a mess. It looks like a game board mess. Yeah, it's horrid.
Okay. Bill.
Just also remember that if you do virtual backgrounds, your ability to key successfully is going to depend on your shot. Ajoy, yours would work probably fabulously because you have a very bright white background, but then the chair and your hairline are both distinct and well formed. If you cut to somebody, let's say an elderly gentleman in my thing with maybe thinning blonde hair, that will key terribly. Particularly wispy blonde hair tends to be a real difficulty for keying. So each person's key may not equal everybody else's key.
Good. Okay, so let's go to the next question.
Moving on to Chuck Wojak. Chuck comes in from Concord, California. He has an opportunity coming up for an event held at a drive-in theater. So he wants the panel's thoughts on wireless video systems for a roaming camera to run out to cars for auction winners. He notes the Teradek, the Hollyland Mars. The receiver will be able to be mounted high on a pole, and he has had problems with renting a Teradek in the past.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, Jason, go for it.
So the real issue with this kind of thing is going to be line of sight, line of sight, line of sight. The other main problem, and I think the reason if you've had any with issues of the past, big metal boxes do not, do not generally tolerate signals well. And if you are walking throughout a grid of big, 2-ton metal boxes, I can completely understand if you were having problems. What I'm thinking is maybe somebody with the pole and some sort of parabolic downlink, like, something that could be pointed. I don't know. Stuart's nodding, which is great. I got a technically, that's not broken. Okay,
Stuart,
good.
go ahead.
We'll just set the Wayback Machine to the 90s, and I might happen to be the first person in the world who put a live-to-air race cam in a sprint car. Now, sprint cars have a big metal wing on the top, and we had the camera up in the top of the roll cage with the aerial for the transmitter actually stuck on the wing. And my brother, of all people, standing at the back of the broadcast truck with a Yagi antenna, which is a huge multi-element antenna. And he basically pointed it at the race car. And that kept us going. But that was an analog link. It wasn't digital. These days, I would probably set up a whole heap of repeaters and access points for a network, and I would go an IP camera. But we would probably have Alex saying, no, don't use IP.
Right. Yeah, Chuck?
Well, it's interesting because it's really just for running out. Now we're doing the stage close to where the projector booth is. So all the auctioneer and everything will be wired to it. They want us to be able to just run out in between the cars real quick and get a shot of a winner or some kind of interaction. It's supposed to be a socially distanced auction. They're renting out the drive-in theater for this. At most, I mean, I can say at most would probably be, let's say 300 yards. That might be the farthest. The Teradek video, I heard Alex say this before. If you rent them, there's a chance that they might be mismatched or not set up correctly.
Right. Get them a day or two before.
Right. Yeah. I've heard of people doing basketball games with the Hollyland Mars So I was just wondering if anybody had any experience with those.
Yep. Stuart,
One phrase grabbed my attention there: running between the cars. Admittedly, a drive-in is a lot safer because the cars aren't moving around, but do make sure that people who you are going up to talk to are aware that there'll be somebody walking around with a camera so they don't run you over.
Right.
Trust me, racing drivers do strange things.
Chuck.
The other option, of course, would just be to have someone with a like the old days, a camera operator, SDI cable, and a cable manager.
Right.
And just try it that way.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of SDI cable.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Next question.
Jim Wilkins in Marblehead, Massachusetts is in with, I'm an old live sound engineer pivoting to virtual. I've decided I need to learn more about video. I have a Final Cut license and a Resolve license. My DAW is Reaper. Which NLE should I learn?
All right. Jim, you're going to get 27 opinions on this. So get ready to take score. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, if you don't know anything about cutting, it really kind of doesn't matter for your first year. You need to learn to edit. And that's the difference between, it doesn't matter whether you start with an organ or a piano, you still have to learn to play. And that is going to come into both things. Now, here is what I think are the differences between the two. Resolve started its life as a color correction tool, became an editor, and it's a good editor now. It's solid. A lot of people are using it. It's still less developed. It has had fewer years to go through, but you can learn that. You will learn traditional A/B roll style editing. Final Cut is a little bit of a different beast in that they really did. Randy Ubilos, the guy who wrote Premiere originally, rewrote this with new thinking and new ideas in mind, much of it having to do with metadata management, which I think personally is becoming more and more important as we have billions of YouTube channels, and finding your content is as big a deal as making your content, or at least letting people search for it. So I am particularly pleased that I learned Final Cut because it changed my whole thinking into this new metadata view. But as just an editing tool, I think it's truly a toss-up which direction you go.
Okay, great. Jason.
That was so well reasoned that I have a hard time adding to it. I would say primarily the very best reason to not use Final Cut is first, you're not on a Mac, and second,
well, if he has Final Cut as an option, he's probably got a Mac.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to generalize the question, out to a more generalized audience. The other thing is that just Blackmagic does color so well. I mean, it just so well, but that is its own animal.
Right. Chuck?
I would say the opposite. I would say if you could, and you're not already deeply rooted in Final Cut, go ahead and learn Resolve. I did that this winter with a couple projects. I forced myself to cut and edit and everything in Resolve, and I learned so much, and I've really kind of fallen in love with the workflow throughout Resolve. Now I'm using the 17 beta, but I was able to do titles. I was able to do audio fixes. I was able to do everything within the Resolve architecture. So I recommend that.
Let's hear Charles Klein's thoughts.
Yeah. If you need to turn around a quick cut and edit, go Final Cut. It's not going to fail you. And remember that Resolve was or is a finishing tool. So
you're going to start a whole nother debate, Charles.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
So if you need to do a quick turnaround, go the Final Cut way. It's not going to fail you.
All right, Courtney.
Well, I'll go the other way and say, if you're going to invest a lot of time in learning one, I'd learn the one that is cross-platform, because it'll serve you better if you ever have to get a job somewhere and they don't do Apple. And also the fact that you came from Reaper, Fairlight is the audio engine in Resolve, and they bought Fairlight. And Fairlight has been in the audio editing business for, a couple of decades now. And so it's very robust environment and for audio editing. And so I think you'll find it very complete. And I think that would be the better choice. If I'm going to dive deep into learning something, I'd invest more time in something that is a little more complete, a little more cross-platform, so it's a little more marketable.
Okay, Stuart, your thoughts.
I'm going to upset Mr. Fenwick. We used to have a rule that if you have a month to deliver, Final Cut. If you've got a week, Premiere. If it needs to be on air tonight, you're using EDIUS because everything else is slow. That said, I will agree 100% with what Courtney just said. Use something multi-platform so you can work for anyone.
Okay, Fenwick, last word.
You know, editorial is a strange beast, and Bill was right. Stuart was amusing. Courtney was logical.
The correct answer is
there's no correct answer. I will tell you, I have a lot to say about Final Cut. I did 180 episodes of my podcast where all I did was talk about Final Cut. So clearly I'm opinionated. For the last month, I've been working in Resolve because I was forced to by the guy who hired me. And I cannot wait tomorrow morning to get back into Final Cut and get some real work done. That's my opinion.
Yeah. All right. There you go. All right. So hopefully you got enough to chew on there, Jim. Good luck. Let us know which way you go. Next question.
Panelist Stuart Fairweather, who is just weighing in on that, is back from Melbourne with Adam Savage's latest YouTube video. He mentions about a possible ILM alumni Zoom Q&A. Is it time to invite him to office hours? And that was for Alex, who is not here today, who cannot
we'll
answer
pass that along.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
We just pop to
the next one.
Okay. Rebecca Keller of Allentown, Pennsylvania is, and would anybody be able to recommend a solid microphone arm and mount for a Blue Spark digital microphone? I can't seem to find one that is specifically designed for this microphone. And the microphone discussions last week had me wondering about placement. Thank you.
What's so special about the Blue Spark Digital that it can't just go on a regular microphone arm? Anybody know? Is there something unique, Jason?
Yeah, I'm going to guess, and someone can tell me if I'm wrong. So a normal mic arm is going to have a much larger, screw-in base. My guess is that that the Blue amp is going to be a 1/4-20. In which case, you should be able to find one on B&H. They're not terribly expensive. They're also not going to hold up very much weight. But I mean, I saw them on sale on clearance for, I don't know, $30 last week.
Right. Yeah, John Pruitt.
And it looks like the Blue Spark doesn't actually have a screw on it, so you need to get a microphone holder. And Blue does make one of those. And then once you get that microphone holder, it should be able to go into
buy the
anything.
holder. Yeah,
This is it.
Chuck. Oh, I see. Yeah, that's the holder he's showing on Amazon there.
So it's one of those that's made for a cage.
Yeah. Okay. And then Rebecca, you asked also about mic placement. I'd just make sure it goes in front of your mouth hole, your sound hole, because that would be a good place to put it. I don't know. Is it anybody got more specific thoughts on that, Bill?
Yeah, and so arms in general, there are a couple of kind of classifications, and some of the less expensive but still decent things like Newer makes some microphone holding arms. Also, you get up into the top end, the broadcaster things come from companies like OC White, who has a range that they put in broadcast. And when you see something like the Howard Stern show, most of those arms that they use, they're very quiet, they're very solid. You position a mic wherever you put it, it just stays there when you let it go. So it's perfectly counted.
Right.
So that's what you're spending when you want to do more. So it depends on how much you're going to use it and what you want people to see if it's going to be in the shot.
Right. That's the main thing. You don't want it to block your face if you're on camera, but also you don't want to be jamming the sound right down the horn of the thing. So sometimes people talk right over top of them. You can see John and some of the other guys here that have mics. They're kind of off to the side a little bit. John, go ahead.
I was going to say Blue makes a very good microphone arm. I've got one for my Yeti and it holds that up, so it should have no problem with that. It is not cheap, however. It's like $90 whenever I got mine.
Jason?
The big difference between an expensive mic arm and a cheap mic arm is this. That didn't sound like anything. That's really the only difference. Other than that, yeah, the shock mount's going to matter, but not nearly as much.
Right, Courtney?
I'm using the new R, and you don't see my microphone, and it is positioned, and it's a fairly large condenser. I can't get it far enough away to show you, but it's coming in sideways, and I've got it rotated so that the hotspot is facing toward me, and then you just lower it down so it's just out of frame, and you could do that with the Blue as well, and put it on one of those $13 new R arms. As long as the mic isn't that heavy, it should be able to handle it okay.
Yeah, great. Stuart?
And just to show off just exactly what Jason was trying to say, this is a cheap arm, and if I move it up and down, you're going to hear all sorts of noises right now.
Right, because it's kind of affixed to the arm. Okay, good deal. So hopefully that gets you rocking, Rebecca. We'd love to see you on the panel sometime and hear how your mic turned out. So get that worked up. Next question.
Tim Holm in San Lorenzo says, I have a Polsen headset. How can I extend without getting hum when going into my ATEM mini cable recommendations?
Yeah, I think, what was it, Chuck? Was there somebody who was just explaining sort of the trick to that? Bill, go ahead.
Yeah, and hum is normally an AC ground loop problem getting into a long unbalanced cable. We talked about this at the very start of this show, but balanced wiring is a particular system that takes induction noise, hums, motor static, things like that. Even fluorescent light balances create this hum. And using a clever electronic phase cancellation thing, it removes noise actively from a long mic line. None of the unbalanced cables have that capacity. So if you're getting hum, the best thing that you can do is literally go through where the whole cable runs and move it away from things like power cords and other stuff. Maybe you'll be able to get rid of the hum by physical placement. But if not, you're going to have to do something to eliminate it. Now, there are devices called humbuckers that are designed to kind of fix part of this problem. They can be a little pricey, so unless it's a mission critical thing, I might not send you in that direction.
Yeah.
But it comes from using unbalanced cabling.
And Tim, and we'll get to a couple more. Some people have had success not going through the ATEM Mini for their audio path. So that's a whole nother route to explore, but like go directly into your camera. If you're using a camera, or somehow go directly into your computer, that hum might be coming from the ATEM itself. Yeah, Courtney.
And it also might be coming from your computer, because I've found a lot of times when doing unbalanced audio inputs into computers that the switching power supply on some computers, especially cheap ones, can throw a lot of hum, or not only 60 hertz hum, but even high frequency artifacts into any mic level signal. So if you're hearing hum, you're using a laptop, try unplugging the power supply from your laptop and unplugging it from the wall, and see if the hum goes away. If it is, you might look for a better power supply for your laptop, or try and run it off of batteries during the time you're connected.
Okay. Lawrence.
Yeah, and if he decides to come in through USB, extend the USB cable instead of the audio cable.
Yeah, that's true. Good idea. All good ideas. All right. Next question.
Brian Smith of Chicago. I've been avoiding this for a while, but I think I need a Thunderbolt dock to help simplify my MacBook Pro at home. USB-C docks all fall short. Wish to support 2 monitors, not in 4K, Ethernet, and some USB ports. Any recommendations for a 6-foot Thunderbolt 3 cable? That's kind of a
all right. So secondly, you're asking about a dock, and then you're asking about a cable. There's some newer docks that have come out recently. Yeah, let's go around, Chris.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of buzz about the OWC Thunderbolt 3. It's actually a Thunderbolt 3/4 dock.
Right.
And understanding what Thunderbolt 4 does for you is really, like, if you have a choice to buy one or the other, always go for the 4, even though it's the same data speed. And in the Thunderbolt 3 world, help me out, Jason will probably know this. I think they said that the theoretical limit was like 18 inches or something. It was a relatively short distance, but I bought, in the very beginning, I bought a 6-foot Thunderbolt 3 cable and did some tests with what they said was the limit, and I saw no speed degradation. No.
Yeah, I don't think that's it's more of a quality issue. Jason?
I don't know.
It's incredibly hard to actually use all of the bandwidth for Thunderbolt 3 alone. They come in two flavors, 20 gigabit and 40. And that's
Right.
40
The cables
gigabit
do.
per second. The cables do.
Right.
I'm not going to get into Thunderbolt 4 and Thunderbolt 3, but yes, Fenwick is absolutely correct. Suffice it to say, on a new enough Mac, it will make no difference whatsoever, assuming you've got the right cable.
Right.
But in this case, let me narrow it down. OWC is the only company that makes a Thunderbolt 3 cable that is longer than a foot that I would trust to do anything. Like, it's that
Right.
simple. And as far as the
Definitely
docks,
look for that 2040 designation when you're buying the cable. Yeah. Yeah. TJ.
I'm using a cable from Monoprice right now, and it works fantastic. I've been using it for the last 7 months.
Right.
And it's
Right.
$50. It's not cheap, but
Right.
it works.
You get what you pay for in those things. Yeah. Peter.
I was going to say the only two places I've successfully gotten it to work. I haven't tried Monoprice yet, TJ, but Apple sells a 2 meter. By the way, it's 1 meter or 2 meter is the length. It's not feet. And Apple and OWC, and it does make a difference. And be careful. You need a Thunderbolt cable. Don't confuse the two.
Right. Yep. Okay. Good. So good luck with that. Next question.
Tony Adamopoulos of Tony out of Missouri. I'm looking for a low-cost audio interface. What thoughts does the panel have on M Audio's M-Track Duo or M Audio quality in general, if not the specific product? Is it a good enough solution for simple home spoken word lecture recordings?
So, interesting kind of question. Just to clarify, you're looking at recording audio, and then you want an audio interface, because you have some other options. If it's a standalone recorder, that could also be an interface. I don't want to confuse this question too much, but let's go around. Jason?
it is much easier if you just want to record to get something like a Zoom recorder and plug in with XLR. You are going to solve so many problems. Just straight out the gate, you will get no noise. You can monitor with your headphones, and the world will be hunky-dory.
Right.
I was burned. I'm partial to not using M Audio because I was burned by their cheapest of sound cards a long time ago, and they are dead to me because it actually died in the middle of a broadcast, and that was just unforgivable. Like, you know, a Scarlett 2i2, these are cheap. And as long as you plug them directly in and don't play with phantom power, because just a bad idea, you'll be just fine.
Right. Bill?
Yeah, I'm going to support what has been said so far. The idea of an interface versus like just a thing that transfers. I've used a Zoom H4n personal little recorder, and I've used it as an interface in some circumstances. It'll take an XLR balanced audio signal input, but you can also use a USB old type 2 cable from there into a computer, and it'll run the audio signal through its preamps and send it out via USB into a computer really easily. So sometimes it's not just I'm going to go out and buy a specific musical instrument or microphone interface, like I use a Zoom TAC 2 to do that job, but I can do the exact same job with that recorder. They have the same capabilities kind of piled on top of each other. So
And then you got the flexibility of being able to go and do remote recording, you know, just with a mic and the device, and, you know, you got that, you know, bonus. Yeah, Courtney.
And if you get the Zoom F6, or they just came out with a new F4 or a new Zoom portable recorder, you get 32-bit float. So
nice.
That's a nice addition for recording.
That's a good thing. Chuck.
This isn't a popular opinion here with all of us. We love our preamps. We love our high quality audio devices. But for some education institutions in the past, we have just used cheap, and I hate to say it, but cheap Behringer USB 2-channel mixers. And it's been a $60 or $70 solution. It has a USB out. It has a XLR in and a 1/4 inch in. yes, it does lend itself to be open to noise sometimes, but it works. And when you're dealing with public schools or something like that, it's been a affordable solution.
Yeah.
That they can plug in a mic, have phantom power. And sometimes I keep one in my bag when I was doing in-person events, because you never know when you may have to bring in an extra computer,
Right.
PC audio
John's
feed.
holding one up there. Yeah.
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 So that might be an option, Tony. It's a small device. The power supply is absolutely hard to deal with, but you just have to protect the power supply, and they're pretty cheap to replace if the cable breaks. But they're under $100.
Yeah. Yep.
And it does in a pinch.
And then just one more super low cost, just for recording, not an interface, is to get a little lightning to microphone and just use this as your recorder, because it records very, very good quality if you can plug a nice mic into it. So that if it's just voice, it's not a bad way to go. So there you go. More than you ever wanted to know. All right. Next question from Doug.
Doug Ferguson, Fort Wayne, Indiana, is here with how are the gamers getting an Xbox feed in and streaming it these days?
Guy.
We've been selling a lot of these capture cards that are 4K in and out, so they're like $129, and it's USB-C. So a lot of the other cards won't allow you to have a loop back out, and if you want to play the game on your big screen, then you want the out, so it just looks like that, and that's one option.
Nice. That's sweet.
How much does that run, Guy?
$129 for the riser capture device. I'll put a link in the chat.
And do you capture on the computer, or does it have a USB port to capture locally within the device itself without a computer?
No, it's a USB capture device, so you need a computer.
Yeah, Jason?
Yeah, the hardest part is getting them, in two ways. If you're looking on Amazon, you're going to find a million of these, and the one that Guy has works really, really well. I would say also, on like the PS5, for example, you can actually turn off HDCP, and that makes it much easier. The reason that you need that loop through is because it's going to back transmit the HDCP and mirror it from the TV device.
Right. So Chuck?
Yeah, the biggest thing with the gamers is they want to stream, but they want the high resolution and, more importantly, the frame rate. I was going to try and see if I could capture my Xbox here really quick, but currently I have it set up for 4K. And I only have the ATEM Mini here. But I know a lot of them are using that device. The Elgato Camlink was originally created for this. But it was a one-way in, so they had to have their own splitter.
Yeah.
But I was going to try it, and who knows, maybe tomorrow I'll show up and have it ready to go.
Play some Fortnite for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. John?
I do know that the Xbox does also have some built-in streaming capabilities. So you can install the Twitch app and stream directly from your Xbox. Won't necessarily be the best quality, which is what the other options are, but it is a less expensive option.
Right. Great. Okay. Next question.
Ernest Floyd from Bastrop, Louisiana says, I've got a Samsung XPD2 headset USB digital wireless system. What preamp do you recommend that has USB in?
I think that's a similar question. Preamp with USB in. Wait a minute. What?
Yeah, I don't think it's a
Aren't
USB
they
digital
all
wireless
USB
system. So
in?
that's going to do the transcode or the translation from analog to digital in the USB digital wireless system. So I guess the question is, what's the wireless systems out? Is it a mini pin, like a little body pack, or is it something else? We kind of need to know what that mic headset is terminated in.
Yeah, I'm not really understanding that unless, yeah.
Because it'll probably already have a preamp built into it if it's a USB digital wireless system.
Yeah. I mean, typically those will have some sort of an audio jack connection, not USB, from the Samsung over to the interface. So I'm not sure what the USB in, that's kind of throwing us. Maybe there's something different.
I have a guess here. So I'm going to assume you're using body packs, and what he's wondering is, the USB mini or micro at the bottom that you can use. This is the Sony version. This is the Sennheiser AVX.
What comes
I
out
think
of
what
that?
he's wondering is, can you plug that into a laptop and have that as a direct audio in? And the answer is that would be really cool, but I don't think you can.
No, because he's asking about a preamp. Like what preamp would we be using? So presumably you'd be going from that body pack to a preamp.
That is a preamp. I mean, that has its own. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's see. We got some hands up. I think we're going to have to punt this question, and maybe you can, Ernest, ask a little bit more specific.
Well, you can see. Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
You can't see my hand because I've got
No,
the
sorry.
picture up. But
Yeah.
The output of that particular headset is USB. It seems only, and probably has a headset output, so you could pull analog out of it. But that you'd plug it directly into your computer, so you wouldn't.
Right.
have
So you're not
mixer
going
that you
into
could
a
plug it
preamp.
into. Right.
From that.
Nope.
Right. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the bottom line answer is that already has it in it. So
That
you don't
is the
really need-
preamp, and you're stuck with what you get.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be improving on the quality. Yeah, Garrick?
You might want to check out Audio Hijack to, boost his gain of his audio if you or something like that. So
Yeah.
that's just if he's having problems with, wanting to control the sound even more than, Audio Hijack would be a good,
would be
good
an
thing to
option,
check out.
sure.
I yield my time.
Yeah. Jason?
Audio Hijack is a great idea. I would also check Samson. Samson may very well have some sort of add-on driver. But yeah, if you're on a Mac, Audio Hijack beats kind of just about any driver.
Yeah. All right, next question.
Rich Gilpin from Olympia, I assume Washington. Using an iPad Pro and iPhone, is it possible to use one for speaker view and one for grid view on the same show?
Yeah, you'd have to sign in twice as two different users, to be able to see that, I think is what you're trying to get at. Unless anyone else has another idea. You can't have a second screen, situation from one to the other. So any other thoughts on that? Yeah, you just sign in twice to the meeting. Yeah. Yes, Chris.
I'm sorry. Are we saying we can't have speaker view and grid view at the same time?
Using an iPad Pro and an iPhone.
Yes. Sorry.
Wants two iDevices.
Right.
I didn't hear the
different
iOS
views.
device. Sorry.
Yeah.
So it's not flipping back and forth on one device. It's dedicated.
Right. Okay, so there you go. Next question.
We're moving along, and for those of you who we got a lot of folks who are watching, it is a great time for questions because we could get to them pretty quickly. So if
Are you going to hear me and Chris fight for the rest of the time?
Yeah, that's right. We'll have to have
Let's
more.
do it, man.
Cage match.
Absolutely.
Q&A cage match. That'd be fabulous. The next one comes from Trevor Walker of Rosamond, California. It says, anyone ever have recorded content fail to render in H.264 on Final Cut Pro, but render in ProRes? Any solution? The content has been recorded in OBS, Mimo Live, ATEM Mini Pro, and direct from a Sony A7S III. Apple support can't figure it out. I have wiped the computer to stock 2 times, plus the usual FCP resets.
Wow. Jason.
There's a lot to dig into here.
Okay. I'm going to try to make this brief, or actually looking at the clock, maybe I should give you the really, really long version. Okay. Here's what you're doing wrong. You're using a lot of different ways to do H.264, and you're using a lot of on-the-fly encoders. The way to fix this is get an app called Edit Ready, rip everything out to a consistent thing, even if it's H.264 to H.264, but ideally something that would be a little bit more expanded like ProRes. Rip everything out, rip all your stems out to something large and long, and then see if you have the same problem. If you do, then you need to stop messing with the way that you're encoding in OBS, because you're doing something weird in your encoder that's messing with you.
Well, let me just parse this a minute, because we're going to make some assumptions here, Trevor. The way I'm reading this question is, take OBS, Mimo Live, ATEM Mini out of it. You have some digital video clips at this point, and they're possibly in mixed formats. And you're trying to render those clips to H.264, they won't work. But when you render in ProRes, it does work. I'm reading that way, so that it does render well in ProRes, but it does not to H.264. Can we agree on that, panel? I think that's what they're all mixed formats. So I do go back to what Jason said. Take a little clip of each one, try to make them all go to the same big fat file format, uncompressed or whatever, and then try going from there to H.264. So yes, Stuart, go ahead.
Okay, I'll have to use some PC analogies, but it actually sounds like the codec isn't installed on the Mac for H.264. But the fast solution to make sure your clients get what they need is, if you've already rendered out in ProRes, put that file into Handbrake and output the H.264 that way to make sure that you're
the final product
on time.
You could do that, right?
Yeah. If you've already got it in ProRes, you're halfway there. Just plug it into like I said, Handbrake, get it out to the customer, and then solve the problem with the computer when
that would be a good test just to see, just in general, does Handbrake work? Just throw something at Handbrake and see if it works, because that's going to tell you if the 264 works on the computer. Yeah, Bill.
This is the definition of what we call a mezzanine codec job. You've got multiple things coming in that might have been recorded by different devices, different computers, different circumstances, different, we got a Sony AS7, what the format is it putting out compared to what I pulled down off of OBS. So the central stage that makes your life tremendously easier is to use a mezzanine codec. Decide on your codec, maybe ProRes 422 or whatever. It could be high or it could be low, depending on what you think the final output is going to be. So you may want to go, if it's really good content, with ProRes 444 HQ or whatever. The thing is to get everything in one language, one type of codec file. Then you can do all your editing and everything should work just fine. And then on the end of it, you can transcode and output to a variety of different formats. But that middle stage needs to be consistent, something your computer and your software understands and works with fluidly.
Yep. Okay, we've got some hands up here, John.
Yeah, just adding some stuff that Trevor's been posting in Makana. He says that they do render in ProRes, that he did verify the codecs are installed properly, and that these are individual clips. Each one separately won't render.
What does that mean? Each one separately won't render? Like, if he's trying to do one at a time?
Well, he also said he worded his question poorly, having issues with individual clips. I'm trying different formats to test why it won't render. I'm trying different formulas to make it work. Formats to make it work.
Yeah. So one test, again, go back to what we were talking about. Take each one of those individual clips, just throw it at Handbrake and see if any of those fail. That might be a good way to eliminate if there's a bad clip in the bunch. Chuck.
Well, these are all great solutions and really deep, but I'm going to back up on personal experience and say something that I had. Now, Trevor, I hope you're listening. Is there any chance that you have installed either Insta360s or GoPro's 360-degree plugin? The Insta360 plugin for Premiere and Final Cut has caused issues on the newest Mac update in H.264 rendering. And I ran into that, and that caused all kinds of problems. So you might want to look into that because that has been documented. I found it deep in some forums, and that might be something to look at. There were some wonky things going on with H.264. The only other option, like Phil said, is to take it out or maybe bring it to another machine, different codecs installed, and try to render from there.
Yeah,
I have a feeling
Jason.
that's what's happening.
Yeah. Yep.
Based on what I'm seeing from everybody else. So just Bill, correct me if I'm wrong. A mezzanine is the same as an intermediate codec, right? Because a mezzanine,
can be. Yes.
So in this case, there are, one of the reasons that we're all talking about going to a larger, standardized output, and it's working on a standardized output, is because Final Cut does its very best to be very fast. And it is entirely possible, especially because the codec itself, the definition of, the coder decoder for H.264 can be hacked in every conceivable way. It's going to be something in OBS. Something is playing differently in a way that Final Cut is incapable of digesting and dealing with, unless it is forced out of its native codec, because, Final Cut or whatever you're using thinks that it can, but it can't. That's the issue.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, I'll come to you, but isn't there a setting in Final Cut where it's making, what do they call it, proxy clips, and maybe is that on or off in this case? Go ahead. Chris, yeah, you had your hand up, right?
Yeah, I was going to say, our friend Mr. Lindsay will tell you that he will never start an edit until he transcodes everything to ProRes. And this is a situation where that may help. I will say, as somebody who does nothing but edit, that if I stopped every edit I was doing and transcoded everything to ProRes, I would never be getting anything done. What I do recommend is go for it until you have a problem, and if you need to, then transcode it to ProRes, because 95 to 99% of the time, you won't have a problem.
Right. Bill?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, one of the blessings and curses of Final Cut that trips up a lot of people, it was designed to take many things in. And it's very sophisticated in the fact that if you drop some long GOP weird codec on it, and if it has any idea of how to play that back, it will play it back. Now, that doesn't mean it's not working incredibly hard to decode, turn into full frames, and then re-encode every time it has to look at that stream of video, compared to the ProRes thing on the track or in the area below it, which it doesn't even, I know that's my native language. So you get into these kind of circumstances, if you fill up a timeline with a whole polyglot of different kinds of codec, which it will do, and sometimes even play, when you turn around to say, now transcode all of these things into this one stream of one type, you may get some codecs that are so flaky that it was able to work with that it's going to cause problems on the output end. And it sounds to me like that's what you're facing, which is why this intermediate or mezzanine codec can solve all those problems for you.
Peter?
Yes, I was going to... the thing that struck me about this is he used at least 4, maybe more, different ways to capture the same video, and still has the same problem. So I'm with Bill. And frankly, I listened to Alex months ago because I was fighting, and it was, interestingly enough, it was Blackmagic to Blackmagic, and I had to use compressor to get everything in 442 before my Hyperdeck Mini would actually honor it. I went to 442 and then went back to H.264, and then the Blackmagic Hyperdeck would honor it.
Yeah.
So
well, Trevor, I hope you got more information than Apple support gave you, and I contend we're probably much more invested in your solution working than Apple support is. Although they're probably nice guys, I'm sure. All right, let's move on. Next one.
Chirag Chahita in Dallas says, has anyone tried On Zoom, which is the paid registration Zoom platform? Anybody experience?
What is that for onboarding? It just handles registrations for like a webinar? Is that what?
I think it's just a paywall.
Oh, I see. Oh, to get you, if somebody wants to pay to go to your webinar. Yeah, Jeff?
Yeah, it's a paywall for Zoom, and it's not a new platform. It actually really, I think one day everybody with Zoom accounts will have access to it. Right now it's still in beta. And
Oops, I think we're losing
and
Jeff.
sign up and wait, and then eventually they invite you and so forth. But you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're just dropping in and out. Are you on Wi-Fi?
Yeah, no, I'm not on Wi-Fi, but I got a pop-up that said that Zoom just quit unexpectedly.
Yeah, he seems like a very rolled off, like somebody's turning a volume knob down on up.
Yeah, and his picture's freezing too, so I'm not sure. But we get the sense of it there. It's a paywall for Zoom, and I don't know. I haven't used it. Anyone else has it? But maybe you can come back and tell us how you did with it. Interested in hearing about that. Okay, next question.
Michael J. of New York City said, Sound Devices Noise Assist is a $300 plugin. Really? Is there a cheaper and effective alternative for the MixPre 6.2? They're more expensive.
Turn off your air conditioner. That's cheaper. But if you don't want to do that, then you got to get the MixPre. You got to get the noise assist. Yeah, Jason?
There is absolutely nothing better. What I like about this question is that he's complaining about the plug-in cost instead of the ludicrous cost of the Sound Devices device.
Right.
Like, you already got the expensive part. Don't worry about the software. It's
They
worth
should
it.
just up the price of the whole box, $300, and then just give it away to everybody.
I totally agree.
That's really silly thing to do. But anyway, yeah, TJ.
Yes, it's expensive. Yes, it is absolutely worth it. Yesterday, Greg was saying he was doing something else with Audio Hijack and putting a little noise reduction in. I can't remember the plugin he was using in Audio
RX7.
Hijack. Yes, thank you. And but the MixPre, the Sound Devices plugin will beat it.
Okay, show of hands. How many people are running Noise Assist right now? Okay, so we've paid a little bit of money to Sound Devices.
I mean, I gotta say, it is expensive. The pricing structure of it is silly.
Yeah,
but it does sound great. And you're right, Phil. Turning off the AC is a cheaper solve.
Right.
And I'm really enjoying your hosting today.
Hey, in Minnesota, we can't turn it off or we will freeze to death here.
Jason.
If it makes you feel better about spending the money, I've used just about everything in the world's hardware and software. There is nothing, absolutely nothing like that plugin.
Yeah, it's nice to have.
Well,
Yeah,
I don't
Bill?
know. All my soundies use Cedar, which is the other live.
But how much is that? That's like
it's substantially more expensive than.
If he's going to gripe about the cost. Right. Yeah.
But
and forget about that.
Serious folks who want to do live in difficult circumstances, that's where they tend to migrate.
Cedar.
I will say that the key is these things do live. There's a lot of great sound cleanup plugins that will allow you to take your soundtrack and then put it in afterwards. That's a different function than live recording.
Yeah. Chuck.
Well, the way I'm looking at it, and I don't have it yet. I will be getting my MixPre 6 soon. You can either spend the $300 for the plugin, and especially if you already have the device, or you can spend $300 in time prepping your room, or building a booth, or choosing a location. So, when you look at it that way, does it really?
Yeah, it's a psychological thing that's funny that people just don't like paying for software. And it's just this whole philosophical thing these days that, they don't see value. They don't perceive the value as much as if it's a hardware box. And it's really silly. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but people think it ought to be free because it doesn't cost the manufacturer more to give you one more unit of software,
Buy
Jason?
once, cry once.
Right, exactly. Jason?
I love the buy once, cry once idea. The difference between the difference between this is a Sennheiser AVX body pack, and I don't know. Let's see, and this is about $400 or so. You're actually, the difference in quality between a Sony body pack and a Sennheiser is significant. And it's not the circuitry. It's all the software that's built into it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Courtney.
Well, if you're using a PC, something that has an NVIDIA RTX video card in it, RTX Voice is an application from NVIDIA that does a very good job of noise removal and is very deep and works incredibly
It's
well.
amazing. It's amazing. All right, next question.
Henry Ramos from Yonkers, New York is in with client asks for a live stream platform that offers direct buy links on screen. Clicking it will allow you to buy, but it won't take them away from the live stream. Any ideas? It must work on cell phones.
Wow.
Ooh, that's a tall order.
Yeah. I don't know, Chuck.
I know that I believe it's Winspire, the bidding platform, was working on this. They had a meeting and said that they were examining it. I don't think it's there yet, and their goal is to have it for auctions, so they can be in the stream on their phone and not have to go out to place their bid or text. But other than that, I know other people with YouTube videos have been working with embedded players on a web page with clickable links.
Right.
I've seen the
that
gimmicks.
seems a more reasonable way is to try to have the video and then the web page all embedded, but right on top. If he means it's got to be right on top of the video, that's going to be a tricky one. Yeah.
And if it has to be live, I think that's different versus a pre-recording.
Right. Bill?
Yeah, imagine the security issues that whoever is going to create this platform has to deal with, because you're going to be doing direct plumbing into potentially hundreds of millions of credit cards. And I know that the big companies like Apple and Google and all those things, that was one of the early things, is the reason they paid so much attention to security is they knew they were going to do things like Apple Pay in the long run. And they wanted that 100% encrypted, no questions. Your credit card is not going to get stolen from here.
Right.
Environment to be able to get the trust so that people would do that. Asking a smaller platform to have access to that data and handle it responsibly is no small ask.
Right. Jason?
My advice is very simple on this. Having had clients that do things very similar to this, get a coding guy. Tell that guy you need some very advanced cascading style sheets or CSS overlays. Do not try to do this in the platform, because it can be done with, somebody you trust with a good, well-constructed website. That is the only way to do this safely.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah, Chuck.
I was just going to say, if anybody isn't looking in Makana, there's been a couple people who've dropped in some good suggestions in there. Livescale.tv, Henry Ramos put it in. And then there was another one, event.gives, Ryan Jordan put in there. So it's just
check
something to
those
look
out.
at.
Yeah. And then come back and tell us what you did. That's what we really need. So that would be great. All right. Next question.
Yeah, because there are shopping cart services that do the security stuff on the back end, but it's the plumbing between them that's not going to be easy. We're moving on actually to a Henry Ramos question from Yonkers again. Client asked for a live stream platform that offered, wait a second, that's the one I just read. I'm sorry, I made a mistake there. We're moving on to Ryan Jordan's Columbus, Ohio question. NDI spec has a high audio channel count. How do I convert multi-channel audio to NDI?
Jason.
Loop back.
There you go. One word answer from Jason. Somebody take the note of the time and the date.
Yeah. Now, is it one word?
Yeah,
or two
I've
words
never
as
done
an
that
icon?
before, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's a great solution. Convert multi-channel audio. Any others? You need a Mac for that. But yeah, Chuck.
I'm just gonna say I didn't see what they said at CES, but isn't there rumors of Dante video coming?
And I'll trust that in 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. All right. Next question.
Dick Brewer of Guatemala says, I'm using several portable hard drives to store my media. Somebody knows of a cradle to connect multiple drives simultaneously with micro B connectors. Note the disk connector is a micro B to USB-C cable, and he'd like to avoid tangling so many individual cables.
So he's looking for like a dock, I think, like a micro B dock, I think.
Build something, get your soldering iron out.
Yeah, Stuart.
Okay, the micro B is just one of the formats of USB.
Right.
Yeah, so there should be plenty of. Hang on, let's just reach across.
I mean, it's probably
And
just get a
Jason
cable.
will
You can probably just get a
hate
micro
me
B to
for this
USB.
because it is a StarTech one, but yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can get cables that convert micro B to any sort of USB format, and then you could just go into a multiple USB dock. Unless, like what Jason's holding up, and you can get these cradle, they're like toasters where you can put the raw drive into that. And that's what Jason's holding up. Yeah. But you'd have to take out the drive out of the enclosure in order to do that. But I'm using that right over here myself, and it's a pretty handy way to swap drives around. Yep. Anybody else on that one? Yep. Okay. All righty. Next thing. We're rolling them in here.
We are looking at Brian Smith's question from Chicago. Any recommendations for a headset to use for comms on a laptop, or adapters to go between a traditional headset's 4-pin and a laptop iPad headphone jack?
Okay, start with Stuart on that. Yeah.
I'm going to go with the simple solution that's reasonably reliable. Grab a gamer headset that plugs into your USB port. It'll give you fairly good audio on both. Because remember, this is just for comms. It is not for presentation.
Right. Yep. Jason?
Okay, so he didn't specify Mac or PC, and it kind of annoys me that these don't come with the iPhone anymore. But, this is a surprisingly good headphone.
The wired
and
AirPods.
microphone. Yeah,
earpods.
Wired headset.
Yeah, with a mic connector on it. Yeah. Chuck?
We just bought about a bunch of cheap, I think it was TRS, call center headphones
for
the PCs. Yep. And that way we're able to scrounge a bunch of old Android or iPhone 3 devices to give to all the camera guys, to give to all the things to use for comms. Now for a laptop, if they don't have a headphone jack, then any USB cheap headset with mic would work.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, Jason. Yeah, you got the little dongle thing there.
So here is one last lifesaver. If you are doing comms, then you're going to be on the air for many hours, and you will destroy any iOS device's ability to do anything, because anytime you do comms, you're just going to murder it. This is from Belkin, and what this has is lightning on one side, and then another lightning for charge, and then a headphone jack, which is really handy.
Yeah. All right, Chris, what are we eating, Chris? What are we having for breakfast?
It's waffle time.
Waffle time. You have enough for everybody there, Chris?
I'm actually running
low. I love
low.
waffles, by the way. How did you know? Yeah, thanks a lot for
There's
that.
no such thing as waffle time, because any
Appreciate
time is waffle time.
Like strawberries on mine. All right, next question.
Moving on, Tony Adamopoulos, who's a frequent flyer here, says, has anyone used SetApp, the Netflix of Mac iOS apps? Any thoughts? I just looked at it.
Yeah, what did you think? I
just hate this new migration to the subscription model for everything. So it's in $9.99 a month, $249 for each iOS device.
You sort of check out apps.
Yeah, I guess. And they have a good little bit of them. They look like mostly utilities. Maybe it's not the big stuff. It tends to be little utility programs. And I just think that business model, and this is personal.
Yeah.
This is not, the world doesn't think like I do about this. These are all just schemes to try to get a tap into you, auto regenerating pay every month in the hopes that you're going to sign up for it, forget it, and they'll get 3 years of $10 a month before you realize the thing is still sucking money out of your bank account and realize you don't use very much of it and let loose of it. And I feel that way about even the big programs that are only subscription based. That's just
Yeah. I like supporting small utility developers, so I tend to just go direct. But yeah, Jason?
Everything that has been said so far, I completely agree with. There is exactly one case where I do not hate a subscription model, and this is purely based on math, not on my opinion. If you used to buy Photoshop, it was $600 a year, right? $600 a year by 5 years is about what it costs to have all of the Adobe Creative Suite these days. Or no, never mind. I have my math wrong on that. It's exactly what it costs to have Photoshop and Lightroom. If you were to get it $60 a year times 5 years. So if you were to replace it every 5 years. Other than that, buy it. You will actually support the developer better if you don't have them go through some sort of packaged middleman. Just buy the app. I buy the season. I don't buy the channel. Like, that's the way to do it.
Chuck?
Well, I was going to say, I looked through it, and there weren't too many useful items on there for me. Maybe one or two. If OmniGraffle, Filmic Pro, and LumaFusion were on there, I'd pay that monthly in a heartbeat.
Yeah, good luck. Yes, John.
So the one concern I have is the Apple App Store model doesn't like this type of application, and I'm not sure how you're going to get the iOS applications on your device in a legal manner. Apple's tends to kill these kind of apps. They've blocked Google, they've blocked Microsoft. So it's just a matter of time before this app gets somebody's attention and has it pulled from the store. I wouldn't rely on it.
Bill?
Yeah, and I just wanted to address Jason's thing. I understand that thought process, but I still don't want to get into a car accident in February and have my wife pay subscription for the next 12 months for things that aren't being used, and then it'll auto-renew at the end of 12 months. So it could be the next 4 years that auto fish hook keep paying me no matter if you don't do anything, you just keep paying.
Yeah, I agree. I also don't plan my life around car accidents, but like the rationale is completely sound.
Yeah.
Okay, TJ.
Anyway, I'm funny that way.
I agree with everybody else's sentiments that if you are going to support your developer directly, not through a middleman who is basically taking a cut, and you don't know what percentage of the cut they're getting. Also, you don't know how much support they're going to give your version of that app through this particular third-party service, whether it will receive the full support if you pay the developer directly. And as a registered iOS developer, I am really skeptical about how they are managing to allow you to download these other apps from the other developer through the App Store process. That just seems a little bizarre to me.
Yeah. All right, let's move it on. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, and I apologize. The lawnmower is right outside my window for the moment. James
Your noise
Babbitt-
assist doesn't take care of that?
I don't use it.
Cedar?
Yes. James Babbitt of San Diego said, is there a good carrying case for 1 or 2 Nanlite LumaPad 25 LED panels? The panel is too big for a laptop messenger bag.
TJ?
I have a LumaPad 25, and I would stick it in a Pelican case with some padding. If I had 2, I'd put 2 in there.
You guys got one showing there, whatever the right sized Pelican case is.
Yeah, this one's a 1550 right here. You can pick them up on Amazon for like $170. That's a 1550. I'll put a link in the chat.
Yep. Jason?
Sirius Plus one on the Pelican. I've spent thousands of dollars on them over the years. If you can afford it and if the size permits it, get a Pelican Air. The warranty is identical, and oh boy, is 40% lighter better when you are hauling stuff.
Yeah. TJ?
And I just want to speak to the quality of Pelican cases. I've put thousands and thousands of dollars in camera gear in it and dragged it across the lake behind my canoe. It was floating on its own.
Peter?
Well, my only comment, I mean, I fell into Pelican cases for different reasons in a past life and now use them in my personal travel. I would disagree with Jason. I have had the airlines completely destroy air cases, the air version of the Pelican case, whereas the normal standard Pelican case clearly puts up with it. So
good. Okay, Chris, he's got a thought.
I have a great video. I'll find it and post it somewhere of a airline guy in Hawaii taking my computer box off of the conveyor belt, turning around, lifting it up. Oh, actually, no, this particular one, he's literally throwing it onto the little cart to take it to the next plane. I was like, I just happened to be like, oh, there's my box rolling. Oh,
TJ.
To speak to that, you are supposed to toss the bags. You are not supposed to set them. It takes too long to set them. It is way more efficient to pick it up and toss it. I'm not kidding. That's what you're supposed to do. I used to work at the airport.
All right, Jason.
Okay, I will add that I have had normal Pelican Storm cases destroyed by airlines. So that does go two ways. In my case, though, it was a little bit different because it was one of the clips that broke, and then that got smashed. And you actually can get a fair bit of money back from the airline if you're willing to jump through their hoops, by the way.
All right. We got one more question. It's going to be the last one because my back teeth are floating. So go ahead, Mr. Bill.
There we go. Henry Ramos in Yonkers, New York is in for the close with just was told about the Ninlight.
Ninite.
Thank you. Ninites, which seems awesome when putting together a new PC build. Anything to be concerned about it installing bloatware or worse?
Yes, Chuck.
It's a great tool. And if you're setting
What
up
does it do?
a bunch, so it allows you to select some apps that you want to pre-install and compiles them into one main installer for you. So let's say I'm setting up a new computer and I need WinZip installed. I need Unrar or WinRAR. I need
base install kind of
VLC.
Right.
So you get all those ready and you download it as one package, and then you have that package to distribute. So you can go through and set up. This is great in an environment like for us, we rent laptops. So if we want to make sure we get, everything installed, then we can just create that image and go through and have them installed.
Nice.
I haven't seen with this one any kind of bloatware or anything extra. Used to be a lot of things that we used to get installed, we'd have to go to like SourceForge for.
Right.
And as you know, if you accidentally don't uncheck the install, the browser tool and the helper and stuff, you'll end up with all the stuff. For this tool, I've loved it and used it for a couple of years.
Nice. Jason?
Ninite is fantastic. I've used it for years as a tech. Here's how it works. And the part that hasn't been mentioned is that it will work every single time you run it. So if the app is installed, it updates it. If it's installed and up to date, it skips it. If it's not installed and, of course, not up to date, it installs it. So you can have Chrome, Firefox, Edge, Zoom, Discord, Skype, iTunes, VLC, Winamp, Windows, Microsoft Security Essentials, whatever you want. And it is a custom script-based installer. And it's not just one time. You can run that 5 years from now and it will update. So I use it as a proactive way to deal with people who are always getting bit by this, your whatever is out of date. My answer is always, no, close your browser, run Ninite, because that's the run me to update everything and then move on.
Okay. Doug, were you raising your hand there? I'm sorry. I didn't see you there. Are you raising it now?
No, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Yeah, I think what it is, it's your picture there. What's that?
You need to close the show so you can go.
That's all right. You got a lot of stuff going on your screen, and when you raise your hand, it doesn't necessarily pop out. Yeah, there you go. Put it right up there
time.
like this is, yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Looking good. Thank you for your help. I get a little quick commercial for Thursday. I'm going to come on and do a second hour of Times Square signs if you're interested in that. So come on back and do that. Otherwise, Chris will be here tomorrow. Alex back on Wednesday, I think. And have a good day, everybody. Enjoy Martin Luther King
Show
Day.
300. Congratulations,
300.
everybody.
In the can.
300, everybody.
Yeah. Take care, everybody.